What was it that first pulled you into listening to metal, and at what age did you discover that you liked heavy music? I think for most of us, this shift happened when we were teenagers, and we found this new sound that was something so contrary to what we were used to that it felt unique and exciting. When I was young, my family didn't have internet access at our house, so all of my exposure to music was through the radio. We used to have the classic clock radios, a boombox, all the standard millennial childhood technology. As you can imagine, the amount of metal played on the radio was limited, and most of it was sort of new metal and alternative metal like Breaking Benjamin, Evanescence, 3 Days Grace, and Five Finger Death Punch. These were the standards for modern metal from my perspective, and although I love a lot of that music and still go back to it from time to time, it was a very limited perspective.
B100 and the Bee Gees staying alive. Lady, that means you've got to have a life preserver and a life raft, the way it's been raining. More on that in a few minutes. 10:22 with Glenn McCartney.
Another important thing to mention about the radio, and this is a theory that you can test right now if you have access to one, is that unless you're listening to a local college station, the radio is essentially a time machine that broke down 20 years ago. You will still be hearing all the same songs played as the last time. It's a completely stagnant entity resistant to time. And the reason for this is that the people who still listen to it like it that way. The heavy music is still the same 5 Metallica songs, the same 3 AC/DC songs, Sweet Child of Mine, Stairway to Heaven, and War Pigs. And once again, this is by design, because, as the people who run the station and the listeners will be the first to tell you, this was the last good music ever made. But you don't believe that, do you? That's why you're subscribed to a niche YouTuber who makes extensive guides on a pretentious genre nobody cares about. In fact, despite what people think about him, Rick Beato doesn't believe that either.
Where have all the metalheads gone?
And I know this because I watch him regularly, and he knows a lot about music, and he tries to keep up to date on newer music coming out constantly. For those unaware, Rick Beato is a very popular YouTuber who talks about older and modern popular music, and usually tries to break it down compositionally. He greatly favors unique chord structures. He comes under fire a lot because he examines popular chart-topping music almost exclusively, and in an era which has the most diverse music listeners thanks to the internet, some feel that that doesn't properly represent the modern music climate, so it's unfair to compare, say, Led Zeppelin to Jelly Roll. And this brings me to a recent video he made on the modern state of metal. He examines the Spotify listeners of metal from the past, like Black Sabbath, Korn, Deftones, Metallica, and matches them up to modern acts like Sleep Token, Spiritbox, Bad Omens. Unsurprisingly, the past metal bands completely outweigh the modern ones in numbers, completely crushing them. The former are household names, the latter just aren't. And his conclusion is that young people just aren't listening to metal. And frankly, I just don't think that's true. I think young people just enjoy metal in a different way than we did. Let me break that down.
The punkers say it's just a new way to express themselves, and if us oldsters are horrified, consider how much more difficult it is to be outrageous today. Society is much more tolerant than it used to be, and after beatniks and hippies, you have to be a little more daring in order to shock. Besides, rebellion is a healthy part of growing up.
The first point is, why would a young person want to even listen to metal in the first place? And the answer is simple. It's edgy, it's unique, and it's rebellious. It's a rebellion that doesn't involve an extreme lifestyle change, one that can be enjoyed in the privacy of your room. The metal kids in my schools growing up were usually somewhat outcasts. We're usually carrying around guitars, dressed in black, sometimes dark makeup, the usual. They were listening to Avenged Sevenfold, Korn, sometimes black metal, Disturbed, Marilyn Manson. Anything that felt like it would weird out a normal high schooler because it made you feel like the edgy villain. Metal is emotional music, sometimes angry, sometimes tragic, but it's strong and powerful either way. It's a scream out in pain or in rage, and that's exactly what a teenager is looking for to make themselves stand out from the common crowd. So, why aren't these teenagers listening to modern metal? Well, frankly, popular metal in 2025 doesn't feel like rebellion. When Korn took to the stage in Woodstock, people literally died. If your parents found out you were listening to a guy in a skirt whisper about molestation and cutting yourself, they would have been horrified. Avenged Sevenfold's most popular music video is about performing necrophilia after murdering a girl that rejects him. There were multiple rumors about Marilyn Manson and Ozzy Osbourne all being these crazy cult Satanists, and the music was this raw production that sounded rebellious in itself. Even Metallica, one of the most popular metal bands ever, sounded like something you weren't supposed to be listening to. Rage Against the Machine's most famous song is a guy saying, "F you, I won't do what you tell me," 100 times.
God help us all, it's Slipknot.
Compare this now to the clean production of the modern metalcore genre, which in comparison sounds like Toxic by Britney Spears. Everything is clean, processed, synthesized, auto-tuned, and perfect.
When the curtains call the time, will we both go home alive? Love's the death of peace of mind. A gift to someone that's free. Imitation of the perfect. My dreams are just a fantasy, and that is all they'll ever.
And I'm saying this as an enjoyer of modern metal, so this isn't coming from a point of criticism. Most modern metal is based on a specific type of metalcore, with a polite blend of djent that is very structured and clean, way too structured to feel like a giant middle finger to everything around you. The choruses are catchy, poppy, no pun intended, and will get stuck in your head, but these are also ways I would describe Sabrina Carpenter. Master of Puppets was used in Stranger Things, For Whom the Bell Tolls was used in Blue Eye Samurai. I can't tell you the amount of lifting and gym edits I've seen made by Gen Z that use songs like Beware by Deftones. Gojira played at the Olympics. MySpace deathcore bands have received a huge revival, and that's not just because of millennials with nostalgia. My boss's 18-year-old daughter just went to see Metallica on their world tour. The openers were Limp Bizkit and Pantera. Yeah, just let that simmer for a second. Metal music got its revival amongst younger generations. It's still very much alive and well, but they started looking to the past. The numbers are so high because a 17-year-old and a 42-year-old father can both be fans of Deftones. Rock has experienced a huge revival as well, but wisely, the younger bands are very closely emulating the bands of the past. I mean, go listen to Greta Van Fleet or Geese and tell me that it doesn't sound familiar to you. So, what if you're a young metalhead who wants to listen to music made by people your own age, but it still has to feel rebellious? These choices aren't to be found in a Billboard Top 100 or any Spotify streaming chart that Rick Beato would be observing. Bands like Violent Vera, Castle Rat, Feytooth, and Harriet aren't getting staggering numbers, but honestly, that's kind of the point. At the risk of sounding contrarian, is there anything edgy about listening to a band with 50 million Spotify listeners? Another reason is that Gen Z tends to have pretty diverse music tastes in general. They've had the most access to music out of any generation, which means they have everything at their fingertips, but usually don't dive as deep into singular artists or bands as the older generations did. However, if you check their playlists, I guarantee you'd find a wide range of everything from Playboi Carti to Fleetwood Mac to whatever hyperpop they're listening to at the time. This means it's less likely for them to associate themselves to a specific genre of music, like being a punk person or a metalhead, but they have a general appreciation for each genre. I feel like you can see this in older movies as well, where they have a lot more archetypes in school. They have more jock and cheerleader and nerd, geek, metalhead, all that kind of thing. Those are the archetypes that they always had. They were much more likely to pinhole themselves into these groups and not step out of them than I think the modern generations are. So yes, metal is still very big for the younger generations. It might not be their whole personality, like it was for some of Gen X and millennials, and they're not making their own generation famous necessarily, but heavy music is still alive and well. It's actually manifested itself in multiple genres as well. I mean, you can see metal's influence across the board. The mosh pit has now become common at rap concerts, and EDM is sounding extremely heavy now. Maybe the reason us old heads get confused sometimes is because the lines are a lot more blurred now. I see so many videos saying Gen Z and Gen Alpha are this, and the problem with Gen Z, and here's why Gen Z can save us, but maybe they're just all different people who have their own interests, and maybe they don't need to be defined by the tiny boxes we try to put them in. Maybe they aren't the best or the worst, maybe they were just born in a certain year. And at the end of the day, metal isn't going anywhere, and neither am I, so I will see you next time.